Riya walked into marriage believing it would give her safety. Aman believed his family name was unbreakable, and Mahesh believed his power placed him above consequences. But when a honeymoon meant for love turned into a nightmare, these three lies collided in a chain of secrets, betrayal, and violence that would end in blood, expose a hidden crime, and destroy a family the world once admired. The marriage looked perfect to everyone who attended it. Riya stood at the center of attention, dressed in bright colors, surrounded by lights, music, and smiling relatives. She was known as a calm and hard-working woman who believed in family values and traditions. When she married Aman, people said she was lucky. Aman came from a respected and wealthy family, known for discipline, business success, and strong social connections. His father, Mahesh, was seen as a powerful man whose name carried weight in their community. The wedding was celebrated as the joining of two honorable families, and no one questioned what lay beneath the surface. Riya entered the marriage with hope. She believed her life would now be filled with care, stability, and emotional security. Like many women, she trusted that marriage meant protection and respect. Aman, however, remained distant even during the early days. He followed traditions, but showed little warmth. Riya noticed this, but convinced herself that time would change everything. She told herself that adjusting to a new home always takes patience. Inside the house, everything followed strict rules. Every movement was watched, every decision controlled by elders. Mahesh dominated the household with his presence. His authority was never questioned, and his word was final. Riya sensed discomfort around him, but could not explain why. She chose silence, believing it was her duty as a new bride. The family valued reputation above emotions, and Riya quickly understood that maintaining the image of a perfect family mattered more than personal happiness. Behind the grand wedding photos and proud smiles, the foundation of the marriage was already weak. Riya's life was slowly shifting into something unfamiliar. The joy she expected never arrived, replaced instead by quiet fear and confusion. What appeared to be the beginning of a beautiful journey was actually the first step toward a dark and tragic path that no one could yet imagine. Soon after the wedding rituals ended, plans were announced for a honeymoon trip that was described as a dream escape. The destination was a quiet hill region known for its natural beauty, far from crowds and city life. Riya imagined it would be a chance to build a bond with her husband and begin their married life peacefully. However, the excitement faded when she learned that Mahesh would be joining them. The explanation given sounded practical and normal, wrapped in family tradition and work-related reasons. Riya felt uncomfortable but believed questioning elders was not her place. The journey itself felt strange. Aman showed little interest in Riya and spent most of his time distracted. Mahesh, on the other hand, remained constantly present, watching everything closely. The resort they stayed in was beautiful but isolated, surrounded by dense trees and silent paths. The lack of people made Riya feel trapped rather than relaxed. Days passed slowly, and the atmosphere felt heavy instead of romantic. Aman often left early in the mornings and returned late at night, claiming work calls and errands. Riya was left alone in unfamiliar surroundings, dependent on Mahesh for basic needs and guidance. His behavior shifted gradually, becoming more controlling and invasive. Riya sensed danger, but could not name it. Fear crept in quietly, growing stronger with each passing day. The honeymoon that was meant to celebrate love instead created distance and confusion. Riya felt emotionally abandoned and increasingly unsafe. She tried to distract herself with the beauty around her, but the silence only made her thoughts louder. By the end of the trip, the joy she once imagined was completely gone. She returned home, carrying an invisible weight, knowing that something precious had already been lost during what was supposed to be the happiest journey of her life. During the later days of the trip, the tension reached a point where Riya felt constantly afraid. The isolation of the place made her feel powerless, as if there was no escape. Mahesh's behavior changed from control to something far darker. He used his authority and age to dominate the situation, making Riya feel small and trapped. Aman's continued absence made everything worse. Riya waited for protection that never came. Each passing hour deepened her sense of abandonment. What happened next shattered her completely. Riya experienced a violation that broke her trust in family, marriage, and safety. The incident was not loud or dramatic, but silent and terrifying. She froze under fear, knowing resistance could make things worse. The power imbalance left her helpless. When it ended, she felt numb rather than emotional. The shock was so deep that her mind struggled to accept what had happened. Afterward, Riya isolated herself. She avoided mirrors and avoided her own thoughts. She blamed herself, even though she had done nothing wrong. The weight of shame pressed heavily on her chest, taught by years of social conditioning. She feared that speaking the truth would destroy her life completely. The idea of being blamed or rejected terrified her more than her own pain. When Aman returned, he noticed nothing or chose not to. Life continued as if nothing had happened. The trip ended soon after, but Riya knew she was no longer the same person. She returned home, carrying an invisible wound that no one could see. Her silence became her shield, even though it slowly destroyed her from the inside. The trauma stayed with her, marking the beginning of a nightmare that would follow her long after the journey ended. Weeks after returning home, Riya noticed changes in her body that she could not ignore. Fatigue followed her throughout the day, and nausea arrived without warning. At first, she dismissed it as stress from travel and emotional exhaustion. But deep inside, fear had already taken shape. When the truth became clear, her world collapsed. The confirmation of pregnancy did not bring happiness or hope. Instead, it felt like a sentence she did not know how to escape. Her mind raced constantly. She replayed the events of the trip again and again, searching for a way to make sense of her situation. Aman remained distant, barely present in her daily life. There was no comfort, no concern, only silence. Every passing day increased her anxiety. She became quieter, withdrawn, and visibly weak. Family members noticed her declining health, but assumed it was difficulty adjusting to married life. Mahesh's behavior shifted once he realized what was happening. His presence became heavier, his control more obvious. He watched Riya closely, as if guarding a secret that could destroy him. Riya felt trapped inside the house, surrounded by walls that offered no safety. She lived in constant fear that the truth would surface before she was ready to face it. Sleep became impossible. Guilt, shame, and terror mixed into unbearable pressure. She feared society's judgment more than anything else. In her world, a woman's pain mattered less than family honor. She knew that if the truth came out, she would be blamed, questioned, and possibly abandoned. The pregnancy was not just a medical condition. It was proof of a crime she was forced to carry in silence. Each day pushed her closer to collapse. What should have been a time of care and support became a period of loneliness and dread. The growing life inside her felt like a reminder of betrayal, power, and the danger that still surrounded her. As the months passed, the atmosphere inside the house grew tense and uncomfortable. Aman began to notice changes he could no longer ignore. Riya's health continued to decline, and her behavior was distant and fearful. What troubled him most was the timing of the pregnancy. Quietly, questions formed in his mind, and suspicion replaced indifference. Without confronting anyone directly, he started observing details, counting dates, and comparing medical information. The more he analyzed, the more unsettled he became. Mahesh sensed the shift immediately. His calm authority turned into quiet panic. He tightened his control over the household, limiting Riya's movements and monitoring every interaction. His goal was clear: keep the truth buried at any cost. Money, influence, and connections were subtly prepared as tools to manage any situation that might arise. The house no longer felt like a family home, but like a place filled with invisible traps. Riya felt the pressure from both sides. Aman's cold, watchful behavior made her anxious, while Mahesh's presence filled her with fear. She existed in a state of constant stress, afraid of being exposed yet unable to escape. Every medical visit felt dangerous. Every family gathering felt like a test she might fail. She avoided eye contact, spoke less, and lived as quietly as possible. The once respected family image began to crack internally, even though outsiders saw nothing unusual. Silence ruled the house, but it was heavy and threatening. No one trusted anyone anymore. The pregnancy, which could no longer be hidden, became the center of unspoken conflict. By the end of this period, the truth felt dangerously close to the surface. Aman's suspicion had turned into certainty, even without confirmation. Mahesh's fear grew sharper with each passing day. Riya stood at the center of all, carrying a secret that was slowly pushing everyone toward an unavoidable and devastating outcome. The truth finally surfaced through cold, undeniable evidence. A medical test removed all doubt and confirmed what Aman had feared for weeks. The child Riya was carrying was not his. That single fact shattered the fragile balance inside the house. Aman's confusion turned into humiliation and rage. His sense of identity, pride, and family honor collapsed at once. The perfect image he believed in was exposed as a lie built on silence and betrayal. Fragments of the past began to connect in his mind. The strange honeymoon trip, his own emotional distance, Riya's fear, and his father's control suddenly made sense. The realization that the betrayal came from within his own bloodline was unbearable. Mahesh's authority, once unquestioned, weakened instantly. His power relied on secrecy, and now that secrecy was slipping away, Riya watched everything fall apart while feeling completely numb. She was no longer capable of fear or hope. Exhaustion consumed her body and mind. The truth she had carried alone for months was finally out, but it did not bring relief. Instead, it created chaos that threatened to destroy everyone involved. She felt trapped between two men driven by anger and self-preservation. Mahesh tried to contain the situation quietly, attempting to protect his reputation and control the damage. But the reality was too heavy to hide. Aman's behavior became unpredictable, driven by wounded pride and betrayal rather than reason. The house filled with restless movement, sleepless nights, and a sense of approaching disaster. What once appeared to be a strong family structure now stood broken from within. Trust no longer existed. The truth, once buried under tradition and fear, now demanded consequences. Each person was pushed to the edge by emotions they could no longer control. The revelation did not end the nightmare. It marked the beginning of something far more dangerous, where anger replaced silence and destruction felt inevitable. That night, the house felt heavier than ever before. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the air inside was thick with tension that had been building for months. Aman moved restlessly, unable to escape the thoughts tearing through his mind. The truth had destroyed his sense of reality, and his emotions were no longer under control. Shame, anger, and betrayal blended into something violent and dangerous. Every corner of the house reminded him of the lies he had lived with. Mahesh sensed the danger but relied on his past authority to protect him. The power he once held meant nothing now. Fear replaced confidence, and desperation guided his actions. The silence between father and son was more threatening than any words could have been. Riya remained trapped in the middle, weakened physically and emotionally, fully aware that the situation was about to explode. She tried to distance herself, but there was nowhere safe to go. As the night deepened, the confrontation became unavoidable. Emotions erupted without warning, turning years of control and silence into raw violence. What began as suppressed rage quickly turned deadly. The struggle was chaotic and brutal, driven by loss of control rather than intention. Riya's attempts to intervene only placed her in greater danger, as panic and confusion ruled the moment. By the time the violence ended, the house was no longer recognizable. Blood stained the floors, and the illusion of respectability was completely destroyed. The powerful man who once controlled everything lay defeated, and Aman stood surrounded by the consequences of his actions. Sirens cut through the silence as neighbors alerted authorities. The long-hidden secret had finally claimed its price. That night marked the irreversible collapse of a family built on silence, power, and fear, leaving behind only destruction and trauma that could never be undone. The morning after the tragedy revealed the full extent of what had happened. Police sealed the house, and investigators began piecing together a story that was darker than anyone expected. The respected family name quickly became a headline filled with shock and disbelief. What had once been hidden behind wealth and influence was now exposed under harsh public attention. Every detail of the case attracted media focus, turning private suffering into public spectacle. Aman was taken into custody, facing the consequences of a moment driven by uncontrollable rage and emotional collapse. His life, once protected by privilege, now moved toward an uncertain future shaped by legal judgment. Mahesh's image as a powerful and honorable man was destroyed completely, replaced by evidence of abuse and manipulation. His authority ended not with dignity, but with disgrace. Riya survived, but survival came with a heavy cost. Her physical recovery was slow, and her emotional wounds were far deeper. The trauma she endured left lasting scars that no investigation could erase. The unborn child became a painful reminder of the crime committed against her and the silence she was forced to maintain. She faced a long road ahead, marked by therapy, social judgment, and the struggle to rebuild her identity. As the case concluded, it left behind uncomfortable questions about power, silence, and societal expectations. The tragedy exposed how fear of honor and reputation can protect abusers while trapping victims. Though justice followed its course, no outcome could truly repair the damage done. In the end, the story served as a dark reminder that appearances can be dangerously misleading. Behind closed doors, unchecked authority and silence can lead to irreversible destruction. The tragedy ended, but its lessons remained, echoing as a warning about the cost of ignoring truth and the lives destroyed when power goes unquestioned.